When I reviewed the Odin 3, I gave it some fairly high praise, and I stand by that review at the time I released it. But after that, which would have been around the start of December, I just never found a good reason to use it for my own purposes. I chalk this up to having the excellent AYN4, which to this day I'd probably say is the greatest handheld you can buy and is absolutely worth getting even with its recent price increase due to how AI is affecting the market right now. Not everyone will agree with me, but at the time, if I could only have one or two handhelds for daily play, then the Odin 3 was not going to be that. Cut to today, and I'd say the situation has changed quite dramatically. I'd say my two biggest problems with the Odin 3, which were its fan noise and its lack of driver support at the time, have both effectively been resolved. AYN made an update that allowed you to make a custom fan profile to adjust its fan curvature, and turnip driver support has been happening consistently for a few months now, which has made significant improvements to Nintendo Switch and PC emulation. Odin has made many updates to improve its performance, and at the time of this video's release, I've completely switched how I do PC emulation by using Game Native now instead of GameHub. I think the only main problem I had that needs fixing is that Fortnite still doesn't work on this handheld. There is a root fix to correct this issue, but I'd rather have this in an OTA from AYN themselves. There is one other problem I had which I discovered after using it more, and it's, for me, I absolutely need a grip to enjoy the Odin 3 to its fullest, but the only actual grip you can get is the official one from AYN's shop. If there were other options, not including TPU shells, I couldn't find any, and I'm also not a fan of 3D printed grips. The AYN Odin 3 grip is perfect for me besides one thing, which is that it's completely smooth. There's no pattern or groove to give more of a grip, and I'd find myself playing something like Just Cause 3, for example, and constantly adjusting my hands to get comfortable again. I'm not really a fan of grip tape either, which I did actually try on this, so that was not a solution either. What I ended up doing, which I'm going to stand by, is using my cheap soldering iron to poke small little dots in a pattern across where I'd expect my palms and fingers to grip. It's not a perfect pattern, but I'm not expecting to look at it. And I have to say the grip is goddamn excellent now, and it's really changed my enthusiasm for playing because I love how it feels now. And I also lined some tack inside so the device feels more locked into the grip, which feels great too. So what's changed since my review and how am I using my Odin 3 now? I think one word that I'd use is immersion. Now, not everyone had the same problems, and it's possible that some Odin 3s had less fan noise than others, but now I don't even think about the fan when I'm playing a game. There obviously will be worry here as lowering the fan speed means the device is going to be hotter. Has this been a problem for me? No, it hasn't. Like my Thor, I should also say I did the Thermal Putty Pro upgrade, and I think for this device it's more useful because of how hot this chipset can get. However, I'm not using the Odin 3 for huge periods of time, so it always has a chance to cool and charge. And I've not had any issues to do with thermals. If you're not using a grip, it's possible you'll notice temps on your left hand's fingertips more, but yeah, these are all choices users will make themselves. With the grip, I don't feel the device getting hotter, and it's a non-issue for me personally. Now that I'm fully immersed, I'm re-entering PC emulation, and I want to be at the cutting edge. And at this moment, it's looking like Game Native is doing that. I'm sure someone is saying, but what about WinLater? But seeing its different versions and forks is a massive turn off for me now. Also, Game Native lets you access your entire Steam, Epic Games, GOG, and Amazon game libraries. I think Game Native is doing a lot of the right things and is making PC games easier than ever, turning a variety of handhelds into excellent Steam Deck alternatives. For some games, you can save a headache by using a known config that has been submitted and works on the same device you use, even if they're not the most optimized. So theoretically, that gives you an immediate out-of-the-box experience to play something straight away. That hasn't always been the case for me, and I haven't done an extensive amount of testing with playing games most people would likely choose, so I've had a bit of a journey relearning how to configure these games. And this is a perfect point to mention a new video by Kai's Retro Gaming, which is a complete tutorial on Game Native, which is informative and excellent. So I do recommend everyone check that out. But now I know what I'm doing, I'm having a great time again setting up and trying different PC games. I could spend a long time talking about how to tweak and fix to find the right settings, but I'd be here a very long time. But what I want to point out is that it's worth looking into what issues a game has even on PCs, because that might be the problem the whole time. I also want to make a mention of GameHub here because it's the only way I've gotten Split Second to run with its 60 FPS patch and a way to use a controller as well. I still have issues with how the tutorial I saw claimed to get it working, but I can play it. But what I'm more excited about here is that developments have allowed it to be the case that not only can you run Zinnia Canary within GameHub, but it actually lets you play the leaked GoldenEye HD game and the Perfect Dark HD versions both about as flawlessly as you'd like. Though I did run into one or two problems that needed a restart. This is by no means a 360 emulator to pursue, but my thinking is for now this is an actual solution to play some of the Xbox Live Arcade library. And I think it's amazing that this even works. Eventually, what I have is a bunch of games I've got working and want to check out and play. I'm also really pleased now that it seems any game I download from Steam will work with all of my cloud saves. So carrying on your progress from somewhere else finally is something not to worry about. I also think it is a great way of checking out the Epic Games library because they're always giving away free games, and most of us have an account filled with games we grabbed because why not, but never got round to play. So you could say that buying an Odin 3 is worth the money alone just to take advantage of all the free games you got from Epic. There's really so much to talk about with PC emulation, and maybe I'll leave that for a video for another time. So I think now's a good time to talk about how else I'm using my Odin 3. Well, I've not got a very big SD card in this thing, and I figure I'd streamline a bit how I'd use my storage. We've got 512 gigabytes of internal storage, and I have a 512 gigabyte SD card, where I'm using the internal storage pretty much for PC and whatever else it needs to do, whereas on my SD card I have a bunch of retro on there and also a good chunk of PS3 games ready for me to test as emulators improve, and a small amount of Switch games as well. You can also put PC games on here that would work on Game Native and GameHub, but watch out for this as I tested Splinter Cell Blacklist from an SD card and it ran very poorly, whereas when I transferred it to the internal storage it had no problems whatsoever. So limit PC games to simpler titles or games that don't have a ton of files to access. I tried GTA 4, which wasn't too bad, but it did stutter a bit from the SD card. I don't really have anything to add about PS3 emulation, but I'm still using a PS3E due to it being able to access games from the SD card, whereas our PCS3 Android has to install to your internal. It might be better, but for storage concerns, I'll stick to APS3 for now. And it runs Demon's Souls at 1080 at a solid 30 FPS, so I don't need it to do any more than that. APS3E, however, doesn't seem to recognize PKG files, so our PCS3 would be the way to go here. Nintendo Switch is a system that had its problems on the Odin 3 in the beginning, but new turnip drivers seem to have helped with a lot of games since then. It's not something I've done a lot of testing on, and some drivers fix things that others don't, but I've been using one which supposedly fixes an issue with Eden. Since I haven't had much interest to emulate Switch games, I'm not going to spend much time here, but compatibility and performance has definitely improved since the launch of the Odin 3. It's been about 4 months now since the Odin 3 started shipping, and a lot of people's opinion on it would be that it's a great handheld that just needs time to cook before it gets the attention it deserves. The Odin 2 was similar in that regard, but that was more of a case of emulators needing more and more updates to do what the Odin 2 was capable of. With what we have now, I'm excited at the prospect of an Odin 3 Portal. I'd love to see the guts of this device with its amazing speakers in the Portal's form factor and a 7-inch screen. I think that would be a pretty ultimate device now that some of the kinks have been ironed out and driver support is much better. With a bigger device, they could use a bigger fan too, which would help with the cooling and noise. But if an Odin 3 Portal were to exist, it would probably be 6 months away at least, and securing components for them to manufacture the device in bulk might be trickier than in previous years due to costs. So I think there's plenty of life in the Odin 3, and its size and form factor might be perfect for some already. As of right now, I've got my Thor, which is still going to be my primary device. I've got a backlog of dual screen games, and I'm always impressed to see 3DS and Wii U games working on it. But the form factor and coziness of the device makes me want to use it for all kinds of games, and it has the power to do Switch and a sweet amount of difficult to run PC titles, which I've shown in previous videos. My Odin 2 Portal is currently docked to my living room TV, and that's become a perfect home media device. I can always undock and play whatever and stream with it, which is the perfect device for that. But now the Odin 3 has become less of a tinkerer's device and more of an actual powerful mini Steam Deck. Not only is it running some pretty insane games on it, but it can run some of the things the Odin 2 did with the graphics settings cranked up. So it just comes across more impressive in that regard. If you own an Odin 3, how do you feel about it now compared to its launch in December? Does an Odin 3 Portal make sense, and would you buy one of those? I think it's pretty crazy how 3 years ago I got my Neo Geek 1S, and I was psyched to see a handheld PC doing what it was doing. And eventually this led to using lossless scaling to see games like GTA 4 and Arkham Knight playing at 60 FPS. And now we have a smaller and more powerful Android device emulating PC games even better than the Geek 1S was, even with lossless scaling. We are definitely about to enter a very exciting frontier of PC games on Android, and I can't wait to see how it develops. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications to see the next video. I'm going now to find a way to pester Ambinic to make a 1-to-1 PSP Go with a modern screen and specs. I think it's about time we got one of those. Anyway, thank you for watching. Cheers.